This is a visit to the exhibition Striking Objects at Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art. The masterworks in the exhibition combine tradition with creativity and innovation. Contemporary Japanese metalwork employs traditional methods that have been passed down and practiced over generations. The elevation of Japanese metalworking into a distinctive art form developed as Japan adopted Western notions of fine arts and crafts. Hammering techniques, once reserved for swords and arms, were first applied to accessories and jewelry, and then later to larger sculptures. Metalworking is at once powerful and delicate. Immense labor and heat are required to extract pure metals from ore to form alloys that are then made into flat metal sheets. The technique of hammering introduces powerful blows to create a shape, yet it can also soften and refine metal through the gentle warmth of thousands of rhythmic strikes. Traditional Japanese metalworking evolved to produce functional items, such as vessels and tools. Originally, hammering was primarily applied to create water containers for making tea, gongs for both religious and secular use, bells, swords, and armor. Over time, the development of alloys, patination methods, and the infusion of foreign decorative techniques such as chasing and inlay expanded the visual and aesthetic potential of hammered metalwork. The Japanese system of living national treasures was created to ensure the continuity of traditional artistry by encouraging the practice and transmission of an individual's embodied knowledge. Central to this exhibition is Japanese artist Sekio Shiro, who was a living national treasure in metal hammering known as Tenkin. He was born in 1907 and he died in 1994. He nurtured a whole generation of metalworking artists, some of whom are represented in this exhibition. His training was traditional and apprentice-based, and he supported women in the field by taking them on as apprentices. So this is one of his students, Osumi Yuki, and she's shown here. She was born in 1945. In 2014, she became the first woman to be made a bearer of intangible cultural heritage in metalworking, as designated by the Japanese government. Such a distinction is unprecedented. For example, in the fields of ceramics and lacquerware, a woman is yet to be designated as a bearer of intangible cultural heritage, despite those fields having more practicing female artists. Since Japan is a patriarchal and patrilineal society, inheritance of artistic and cultural traditions usually continues through sons, nephews, grandsons, and even son-in-laws. So hammering is the process of shaping metal through repeated application of manual pressure. The standard Japanese method begins with hammering at the center of a flat metal plate. This is shown at the top. Which gradually pushes the edges outward and upward to create a vessel. This process is called hammering out or hammering up. Some artists will begin hammering the edges of a plate and go inward towards the center instead, in a technique called squeezing. To achieve a desired shape, an artist will use a metal tool called a stake, shown in the lower right, to provide stability and counter pressure to the hammered surface. The stake is securely placed in a hole in a wooden stump, and the artist will then place the flat surface of the stake behind the metal surface that they will hammer. Since the stake head is smooth, the interior surface will bear no obvious hammering marks. If the artist wants the surface hammering to appear on the interior, they will pour melted pine pitch, which inside of the vessel, and allow it to harden, and this is shown in the lower left, after which the artist can hammer the outside. The pitch provides support for adding finishing touches such as surface texture and pattern, and it's removed in a final step. So these next few pieces are by Sekio Shiro, who I already mentioned was a living national treasure, who mentored many of the artists in this exhibit. As far as scale, these are all tabletop pieces with estimated dimensions are about between 10 and 20 inches. So this first piece is called just Bud Vase. It's subtitled Pieced Together. And it's of iron and copper with silver, copper, zinc gilding over the joints. This elegantly tapered vase was created in response to his neighbors making noise complaints about his hammering. So the process for this one was one of mainly cutting and soldering with only minimal hammering. And this next one, called Iron Flower Vase, Swirled Iron, was also by Sakia, and it was also created during the period when he was reducing his hammering because of neighbors' complaints. This piece is an asymmetrical swirl formed by a hammered sheet of iron with a soldered iron vase. The matte texture was created using a finishing technique whereby fine grains of stone or metal beads are directed and dropped onto the surface using a funnel. This is it's just a vessel by Sakura. It's of hammered silver and it has a bronze neck. And also by Sakura, this last piece, freshwater container with a lacquered wood lid. It's subtitled Soft Touch. It was hammered from a flat sheet of silver. Creation of this vessel required strength, determination, and patience. The hammered ridges overlap with each other, creating a pattern that evokes grasses, and the surface is textured with delicate hammer marks. So these next two slides are a piece called Wave Crest by Osami Yuki. That's the woman in the photos at the beginning who has been designated a living national Japanese treasure for hammering. And this piece is made of silver with lead and gold inlay, and it is unusual in that it has a hexagonal base. The wavy hammered ridges extend upward, accentuating the trajectory of the 6 wave crests. The undulating concentric bands are inlaid with lead and gold leaf, with a hammered crosshatch pattern that helps to hold them in place. So the crosshatch pattern is actually kind of chiseled into the surface. And so these are my photos of the piece. And this is the photo they have online. So I'm showing you multiple photos of some of these pieces because I think it helps you to see, it helps you give a better view of what the pieces actually look like in person. So these next two slides are, this is a piece called Sound of Wind. It's silver with lead and gold inlay. It's also by Osumi Yuki. The design on the interior matches the beauty of the exterior. The inlaid design, inspired by the wind, intersects with the hammered ridges. And this is the image that's on the website, and these are my photos. And this one, it's an example of another vessel that looks as beautiful inside as it does outside. It's made of hammered copper and gold alloy, patinated into a dark black gray. And this is by an artist, Io Kochi, who was born in 1987. This is Embossed Gold Jar, subtitled Pot of Gold. It's by Onuma Chihiro, born in 1950. This is another artist who studied under Sakia. The hammered base of this vessel is copper, hammered into shape with an added embossed web of interlocking swirling circles. The vessel was then gilded in a process that involved heating and mixing gold with mercury, which created a paste that was applied onto the metal surface, and then it was finished using a torch to evaporate the mercury. And this is Flowing Water. It's another work by Onuma. This work depicts a flowing mountain stream. The striped black and silver pattern, combined with the hammered vertical ridges, emphasize the downward flow of water. The vessel was hammered from a base of copper and arsenic alloy. Then sections were removed and inlaid with silver. So the image on the left is the website image, and on the right is my image, and it shows another view so you see more of the pattern. Okay, these next two slides show a piece called Circular Currents, and it's of brass and silver, and it's also by Anuma. Movement is a common theme in contemporary Japanese metalwork, as the artists view the metal as soft, warm, and pliable. This piece was inspired by the artist's mountain fishing trips. The dark accents echo the curves of the inlaid silver to capture the liveliness of river currents. So this is the website image, and this is my photo, and again it shows the back side. And these next two slides are a piece called Dance. It's another piece inspired by movement. It's of silver, copper, and gold by Atsuki Mask, who was born in 1943 and died in 2022. She began her training with a Western art education before becoming an apprentice in Japan. The piece is articulated in a ridged and chiseled design, punctuated by thick ribbons of gold and dark gray, copper, and gold alloy. So website image, and here's my photo. And this is Night Wind. It's by Uda Chikako, born 1981, who studied with her father. In this piece, a darkened copper arsenic alloy alternates with silver, the former invoking the darkness of night and the latter symbolizing the wind. The silver was applied to a flat sheet of the dark copper arsenic alloy before it was hammered into shape. The finished piece has a smooth, glassy surface, which bears no trace of hammered marks. And this is Flower Vessel, subtitled Metallic Flow, and this is by her father. So his name is Uda Sanin. And this piece was also created from a base of copper and arsenic alloy. The silver was applied using a poured solder technique, which created a rustic appearance that captures the malleability of the metal. And this is Shimmering River, a lidded box of copper, gold, and silver by Tanaka Terukazu, born 1945. And he was also trained by his father. The rich sheen of the black, copper, and gold alloy amplifies the warm glow of the gilded design, which combines cross-hatching, hammered ridges, and hammered marks to create a variety of textures. And this is called Dawn, subtitled Painting with Heat, by Oshiyama Motoko. She was born in 1957, and this piece is of silver, copper, and gold. And like the other artist, Atsuki, this one also began her training through Western art education before pursuing her metalworking apprenticeship in Japan. For this piece, she was inspired by an 11th century Japanese writer, and she used her own technique known as scrambled patterns. She used an argon torch to weld pieces of metal together and also to melt the surface to create patterns, hammering between each application of heat. And this piece is called Scenery. It's silver, copper, and gold by Suto Shataro, born in 1932. It shows black silhouettes of copper gold alloy stretched across a silver surface accented by deep red copper. It depicts an abstracted cityscape based on the Buddhist concept of mu, which means nothing, creating a suggestion of high-rise buildings, pitched roofs, or perhaps factory chimneys, rather than a specific place. The piece was created by cutting out sections from a hammered vessel and then inlaying them with the different metal pieces. And this final piece is called Line. It's of silver, gold, and copper, and gold alloy. It's by Hagino Noriko, born in 1949. She was yet another artist who began her artistic training with Western art. And unfortunately, I neglected to collect the details on this piece. So I don't know how it was created, but I'm assuming it was inlaid. So the exhibition is on until January 11th, 2026. And if you visit the National Museum of Asian Art website shown here, you will find a very interesting video showing two of the artists in this exhibition creating their works. And thank you for listening.